Joining us right now, Congressman Chip Roy from the great state of Texas, who has been going through this in D.C. Congressman, we're grateful to have you and happy that you're staying safe and healthy. Give us the latest on this, because I know that there were a lot of concerns about what was going to be included in this package coming up from the House. I know Mitch McConnell was saying yesterday that there are a number of Republican senators that had some concerns because there was some things that Nancy Pelosi and others were trying to slip in here that had absolutely nothing to do with response to this pandemic.
Well, Dana, first of all, thank you. Glad it sounds like you're healthy and doing well. Obviously, the first thing we should be doing is praying to make sure that, those that are potentially suffering are well, and praying for their safety and well-being, and praying for our nation. And I know you agree with that. And let's also keep in mind that perspective here matters. We need to remember that this nation has overcome, Nazism. We put a man on the moon. We, rebuilt Southern Manhattan. We cured polio. And I go down a laundry list of things. We're going to be fine, and we're going to overcome this, but we're going to have to work together to do it. At the end of the day, right now, my primary objective is how do we get on top of healthcare to make sure everybody's, taken care of, and that we don't let the virus spread too rapidly, flatten the curve, as people say. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, how do we get our economy cranking back up again so that we're not causing more harm through a prolonged recession or even depression because we've gone so far in shutting down commerce. So when I look at what the Democrats proposed last week, there were pieces of it that were fine. Trying to fix and expand unemployment insurance so that people can be cared for, trying to fix and deal with some of the SNAP and food stamp issues. But ultimately, there were mandates in the bill that would have been highly destructive to small businesses, and there were carve-outs for big businesses. And it was being rushed through without us having the ability to debate and vote on it. So I voted no and tried to hold on to it and delay it a little bit so we could actually debate it. We ended up having a little debate, improved the bill a little, got some relief for some of those small businesses, but not enough. It got over to the Senate, and now Tom Cotton, Mike Lee, and some others are trying to solve the problem by improving the bill. Bottom line is we need to put capital into the hands of small businesses so they can keep their businesses afloat. Right now, government, the power of government, both rhetorically and actually, is being used to tell people to basically shut their businesses down. That's a problem, right? That's close to a regulatory taking. It may be the right response in the face of a health crisis, but people's lives are attached to it.
Right.
So I, like you, I'm a fiscal conservative, a limited government conservative, but I am not troubled by some of the conversations we're having right now about expanding unemployment insurance, figuring out COBRA and patchwork to get people to keep their health care, and even some direct cash payments, particularly if they're means tested, to ensure that we're doing what we need to do to keep workers able to work, small businesses functioning. What we don't need are massive bailouts for Wall Street while ignoring small businesses and workers. I'm hopeful the Senate will improve that legislation, but we need to all keep working together, all to get through this briefly and then get around the bend and get our economy going and do what Americans do best to survive and beat this.
Yeah, and that's the $1 million question, because I was listening to some of what Steve Mnuchin was saying yesterday, and I realized that he was kind of giving a sort of Overton window kind of approach, but saying, look, you could see unemployment spike, maybe even go up to 20%. It's just you're gonna have this happen. And one of the proposals that has been discussed often is the $1,000 a month to individuals as some relief, which I asked people on social media yesterday to explain to me why they think this would be better than the approaches that I'm that I think that we should as limited government fiscal conservatives look at. I would sit here and go to even to the extreme, like, let's just not have income tax, and let's have, I realize that we have some extensions now, but why not just have a grace period? Government's got enough money. Why we could cut all this needless spending. We could cut all these other regulations and payroll tax and et cetera, et cetera. What are your thoughts on that? Because that, I think, has been, it's not that conservatives are, and this, conservatives or even kind of libertarians or independents are opposed to measures in a time of a pandemic, because we've never been through anything like this, and at some point it does become a national security concern. But how far do you think is too far?
It's a good question, and I don't pretend to know the answer for sure. What I think is most important is that whatever steps we take, we do it through the lens of getting through it rapidly and getting around the bend. And so I keep saying that because it's really important. We can't shut down for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months and try to go through until, okay, there's no more virus, we have a vaccine. We can't do that. We have got to get our economy functioning again because we need people to have jobs, food on their tables, being able to pay their bills, being able to go and get medicine and go get health care. We need all of our economy functioning. We can't just leave pieces of it functioning.
Right.
We need to right now flatten the curve, take the steps necessary to stop the spike, get our healthcare system squared away. I do believe that a mix of cash payments to some limited amount, within some reason, and unemployment insurance and ways that we can help bridge the gap for workers for some period of weeks, right? Whatever that is, I do believe that's critically important. Again, Dana, keep in mind the power of government is being used here, rightly or wrongly, to say we can't be out at restaurants. We can't be out in big groups. We can't be flying and going staying in hotels, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, if that's the right call for public health, history will judge that. Then right now we have something close to a government taking. We're taking away people's liberty to make money. So government has a role here. I believe this is a limited government constitutional conservative, a role here to step in and try to bridge the gap, give people the ability to get from point A to point B. I don't know what that looks like in terms of how big is the cash payment, how often, how much do we do it through unemployment insurance, what do we do on those fronts? But we need to do it. We need to do it quickly. But the most important thing is getting capital to small businesses to keep them afloat so people have jobs. Allow entrepreneurs and innovation to take over. There's a company here that says something that I've read about where they'll go into a local restaurant and basically create like a Sonic where you drive up, punch in what you want to order from that restaurant, and they can bring it out to your window. That's
awesome.
Great. More of that. More charity. More helping your neighbors. Keep seniors protected. Do what you can to help the neighbor down the street. Go down and buy gift cards from local restaurants. Do what you can to keep them afloat. Double tip, triple tip. And then we get busy doing what we should do, but we got to fix the healthcare situation. We got to have a whole nother call about China and disentangling ourselves from China and the supply chain over there. I sent a letter to the Democrats on Oversight Committee with all my colleagues on the Republican side, and it was well received, by the way, by my Democrat colleagues, to have a hearing and oversight as soon as possible about how much our supply chain and healthcare is too entangled with China.
Right.
We've got to do something about that, but that's a whole nother call.
And that should be, and that's a priority too, to make sure that we control that supply chain. I was looking at some of this because I know that some people are talking about the R word, recession, and some others have even suggested that could this lead to a Great Depression, which I think might be an exaggeration. But I mean, I remember previously, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, that the government in times of national emergencies, I know that it happened under Bush, and I think it happened under Obama as well, that they'd sent something like this $1,000 was attempted previously, and it really didn't have that much of an impact in terms of getting the economy back on track. Do you think that well, go ahead and address that, and then I was going to ask you if you think we're actually sliding towards a recession.
Well, look, I think we're going to definitely have a massive slowdown. There's no way we cannot when we've actually just stopped the wheels of commerce in multiple areas. And I mean, airlines are basically, empty. Cruise ships are empty. Hotels are empty. Restaurants are being told not to operate. We're going to have a massive slowdown. Again, our goal is to get through it quickly and then get around the bend and get going again. The $1,000 issue, I think some of my conservative friends are getting a little mixed up about calling this a stimulus.
Yes.
But this isn't about stimulus. Because the $1,000 would fail to be a true stimulus, to be honest with you. But what it will do is bridge the gap for workers who are left stranded because service workers can't work and go get go wait tables, right? I mean, we're telling people you can't go to a restaurant. The waitress and the waiter is going, well, now what do I do? They literally don't have a job. And so we can go down to unemployment, fine, and we should do that. But we can provide some relief with direct cash payments. It's very different. It's not about stimulus as much as floating everybody to get through it. Again, my call and my advice to the White House is get around as soon as we possibly can to some sort of date certain in which we're going to get around the bend and tell people, look, wash your hands and get back in the ballgame. At some point, that's what we're going to have to do. I don't know whether that's April 1st, 15th, May 1st, July 1st. But at some point, sooner rather than later, we're going to have to crank everything back up again and make sure we've got our healthcare system able to deal with it.
Yeah.
We can't shut our economy down in perpetuity.
Yeah.
So we just got to get through it and bridge it. Once we do, we'll come out of it great if we do all the things we're supposed to do.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's some steps that we can take when we're on the other side of it. And China's already on the other side of it. South Korea is already on the other side of it. And yeah. Italy's getting there. They're getting there. They're coming out of the middle of it right now as we are about to slide right into it. So there's definite steps that we can take to really mitigate really, I think, some of the worst economic outcomes. One last thing before I let you go, and this has been kind of a fight on the side of the big Wuhan coronavirus fight, is what to call it. And everybody has been, I personally think, I've written about this. I think, this is communist China. They maliciously and purposefully spread this when they were arresting doctors that were saving lives, shutting down labs, deleting reporting that were trying to warn the public, withholding critical data, using the World Health Organization, bullying them to exclude countries like Taiwan for political reasons. At what point, because I know right now we got to focus on making sure the country gets through this. But I'm thinking we have to get more aggressive than the United States has ever been with China when this is done. What is your thought?
Well, I agree completely. I mean, I don't know all the facts yet. None of us really do about what's going on. I know this. When China is kicking out our reporters, something's going on. And look, I'm no fan of the media, and neither are you as a general matter in terms of how they do things in the United States, and they tend to have leftist progressive tendencies. But dadgummit, the First Amendment is critical to a functioning democracy and getting the truth. And China's trying to hide this stuff. And so we've got to get much more aggressive with China. Look, they've been our enemy for a long time. They've been targeting us on intellectual property. They've been engaging in espionage, stealing our secrets, sticking it to our businesses, been playing hardball. Look, the president was right, by the way, to come in and start trying to play a little hardball with China with trade. And don't think for a minute they don't know that. And the way they've handled all this from the beginning, whether or not they cooked it up and created this virus or whether or not the virus occurred and they hid it, or all of the above. China has been not upfront in dealing with this. They are not our friend. We need to remember that in whatever we do in creating policies. And going forward, we need to make sure our supply chain and healthcare and other critical national security areas is free from being controlled by an entity like China, which is our enemy and not our friend.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely on that. You're going to be busy, Congressman. You're going to be so busy coming up. I hope that you travel safe and that you stay healthy.
Yeah, you too. God bless you. Happy to come on anytime.
Of
Just
course.
Stay well. We live in the greatest state and the greatest country in the world.
Amen.
We'll all fight to get through this, and God bless you and all your listeners.
Absolutely. Congressman Chip Roy from the great Republic of Texas. Congressman, thank you.